There was a time when I actually watched an artist. He seemed to be a real artist because he was sitting on a little stool and had an easel and had all his paints out, and he was painting this beautiful, perfect shaped mountain, which was just by our village called Arusha. And I just couldn't take my eyes off that painting. And it made me observe what was out in the nature, the fields, the layers, the textures, the colours. And, I'm looking at this, probably I was about 9, 10 years old, just absolutely enthralled. And that was my first introduction to, a real artist. I think I always had a pencil in my hand. I think I was always scribbling, doodling, doing the art that I just absolutely loved. And my mum encouraged me. And there was this competition for the brownies. And she took me down to the river, had me watching the Africans lay out their clothes. The subject was washing day, which I think is so apt because I still paint people's washing. And it won, and it got into a little award and so on. And the stupid thing is, of course, well, that's the only story my mum ever tells of, how well I did. Yes, she won a competition at 9, and I came, oh, Mum, what about all the rest? So from there, I came to Glasgow and schooled, loving art as a subject, and applied to Glasgow School of Art and worked through that. From art school, it was, the choice really was teacher training, teaching, I think from drawing and painting, which was the subject I chose, that would probably have been the most natural for us. And I was told, they were saying, well, you're either going to teach or you paint, you're never going to do both. But I think I made a conscious decision that I would have at least one exhibition a year. I taught in secondary schools for 4 years. Then I decided I wanted a little break, do a little bit of service abroad. I went off to Bible school, first of all, in Chicago, in America, which was a great experience, and it gave me a whole new breadth of experience. And then I went off to the Seychelles to do some missionary work. Of course, I could have chosen a harsher place than the Seychelles, but it was kind of nice. But it also gave me this new look at colour and light. And from that, I always wanted to find that kind of subject matter. When I paint, I call it picture making. So I'm trying to evoke a feeling when you look at my work, that I've been there, that I have felt this, that I've experienced this. So I'm not looking at the landscape just to repeat exactly what's out there. And although I'm not approaching it in purely abstract manner in terms of pure creativity, there is some looseness and abstraction and colour that comes through my work. And I think I share this love of the Scottish landscape, particularly coastal scenes, with so many people, and that's I think they like that. I like sharing it with them as well. I've got this lovely little cottage in Skye. That really came about because I exhibited on the island, and that this has been my 25th year of manning a show up there. And so I have been introduced to Skye, and I've used that as a springboard to get to all the other islands. It's been a complete opening to subject and places, and just all these themes come through into my painting. The two islands I love the absolute most are Tiree, because of the beautiful expanse of beaches, the architecture of these lovely little cottages right on the beach, and sky. And sky is just so diverse, from just superb mountain ranges to lighting changes bouncing off the water, and then the topical, the cottages, and it's just given me such a wealth of subject. Yeah, this 25 years exhibiting on sky, particularly, actually threw up a nice way of looking back over the 25 years. I produce, I record all my paintings, they're always on images, but I do produce a 6-picture A5 card. And I actually displayed all of them. And so you could actually go through the display up and down and just see the color changes, the textures, and the themes. And I am looking at my past work and seeing what was the best out of that. And I'm coming back to textures, a little bit more textures, and the technique is changing a bit. Yeah, there's 1 or 2 paintings that I've brought to the show, which have a little bit of the slab work, but it's got the 2016 stamp on it, where it's just a little bit freer than I would have done in the past. I used to love doing shafts of light, and I've produced a really nice one of that, where the colours are slightly different, and the textures are a little bit looser, but we've got that. So there are 1 or 2 paintings that are clearly looking to the past work. It's kind of nice thing when you can influence yourself. I do get influenced by other paintings, no doubt about it, by other artists. But it's nice when I can look at my own work. I call the start of a painting factory work, actually. So I prepare paints, I pre-mix the paints, and canvases are obviously stretched and so on. But what I find I do is I build up layers of paint. And the early stages don't matter that much in terms of having to concentrate. It's actually just building a surface. The thing about oil paint, it sinks into the canvas, and I like, to get a little bit of, luster and everything through the layers. So the first layer actually is this grey, which is just the remains of the old paint. And I get it stored into a jar, scrape off, keep it all clean there, and it always ends up that colour. Then when I'm about to finish off all the paint, I'll just put the next coat on, and it really depends what colours are left. And sometimes it's these painting that gives me an idea of what I could do. The next stage that I would do, I would have a place on mind. I would have, but it's sometimes this that would have dictated it. I mean, so I have a couple of other canvases here, and you'd see, different colours, and this one's already had a few blocks in it. Good colours are beginning to happen, and I'm beginning to draw out a composition very loosely, getting an idea, and hopefully some of these colours are going to stay as undercolours, or they might be something that inspires, when I'm about to paint. But this next stage is the most important stage, and that's when all concentration, all creativity, everything is going to happen. I've had some nice happy accidents, but now I have to pull it all together. And as I said earlier, I picture make. So I'm getting a feeling of what that is. I'm getting horizon, distance, light, detail, and now I have to paint it. I would look at photographs to inspire at least some basic things like a horizon line, you know, whether it's going to be low in the page or high in the page, and you know what the subject is going to be. And then I quite often like going to the third and fourth stage without too much reference to the photo. I use photographs, but I am very thorough in my photography in terms of when I go to a location, you know, I will photograph left and right and zoom in and go back at different times and seasons. So that whole area has been so well recorded. I know where the light is, you know, where the sun is going to rise and where it's going to set and where the shadow is going to be and the cast shadow. You know, I've painted so many subjects and I like to return to similar scenes. And they may look as if they are all similar, but they're not. Every one of the paintings I try to hit at a different time of year, a season, a lighting, a mood, a composition. But I know these areas. I call it my hunting ground. But in terms of application, this very dull grey, you know, has no life, has no quality. But, you know, the minute I would, you know, perhaps put something over that as stage 2, and just emulating a little bit what's in front of me here. And this is just simply to stop the paint sinking. And, you know, I have no idea what I was going to do there, but I'm having a bit of fun using up old paint. And at that stage, I would leave it to dry. This stage, I could use a drawing line, and my favourite is Prussian blue, and I could, you know, possibly find my drawing, you know, what I want to put in there. I'll have a look at a bit of reference from an old photo, you know, get an idea of something at that stage. I would let that dry, but today I'm not going to let it dry, and you'll see a little bit of smearing which will happen because that is wet. But basically, you know, I might very quickly, you know, establish what you know, the mood is going to be. The colours are already beginning to be fresher. You know, if I want something very dark, I might start putting a bit of direction. And, you know, you can see there that, you know, I'm not doing very much, but paint is. Paint is doing some lovely things, and I'm getting a little bit of inspiration. And that undercolour might stay, but more likely it's going to be this undercolour that has a reference to the actual painting. I love scenes with you know, the light, the moody background, and sunlit foreground. I love tonal work, so and I like a bit of warmth. And, you know, hopefully, you know, even something as strong as, you know, a red, or, you know, can stay there until I'm ready to actually, you know, paint. So there's another stage that the paint has dictated something of what I might do. And but the next stage would be sharpen that up. You know, get exactly where I, you know, want the rocks, or where I want the streams and the waters, and yeah, a little bit of stream in there. Sometimes it's too early. I love the mixing of blends of, you know, colour into colour, But that's your next stage, your the actual finish stage. You know, some nice blends happening in there. But I'll sharpen up the drawing, and then I'm ready to paint, and that's where the concentration comes. Well, I keep my paintings up in front of me as much as I can when I'm painting in this studio, and not so easy when I'm painting in my sky studio. And I will be every so often looking at it and referring to it and saying, that needs a little bit of this needs a bit lighter, and then eventually when I feel that's got as much as I can give to it, then that's when I'll end. Having said that, I have been known to take a picture out of a frame and change it because there was something not right or it annoyed me, or so it has been known. I think most of my paintings now have a feeling of lightness and hope, and although there might be a bit of mood in the background, there's a sunlit foreground, there's a breaking bit of light coming through. But it can change through the different stages. I can go from one day feeling that I wanted to make a particular painting a bit more moody to saying, no, I really feel like I was walking on that beach in the most beautiful sunlight, and no, today I want to paint that sunlight. But I think all my paintings are quite happy and cheerful. But this is a good example of it changing halfway, because this has the three stages, well, three of the stages I use. There's obviously the grey stage, and in this first stage here, you can see that the colour was dictating a fairly moody background. And by the time I was working my way down, the picture got sunnier, and I took some of the mood out, and actually the final painting, which hopefully will be in the exhibition, is a very sunny painting. It worked out beautifully with the clouds and just a lovely, lovely blue sky. So yeah, it did change. Yeah, my favourite tool is a mirror, and it just, I suppose it gives you distance. So when I look into the mirror at the picture, it gives me as if I'm 10 feet, 20 feet away from it. It is the reverse way, but what it does throw out are imbalances. Another favourite piece of equipment is, I know people say you shouldn't use a ruler, but especially for a long painting, do you know that horizon line always tends to go down? So this is quite important, piece of equipment. But the mirror shows that. The mirror shows, oh, that's squint, and your frame maker always shows you that. But, it will show you composition, repetitive rock, that is repeating. It will show you something too squinty, although that's quite a nice thing sometimes to have, but it will show you that. It'll show you bad perspective, and you went, so yeah, good piece of equipment. Probably sigh of relief. That's, the work. You've got the work, and you've got the photographs, and you've got the background. And if I can get to the opening, quite exciting. Quite excited to see them, because I don't often see, the work all hung up with the frame. And when it comes back to the framer, it's in bubble. So I won't look at it again. No. I don't see it until it's hung. I mean, I think your hopes are, I suppose, are always exposure and just good feedback. An artist does need that. To say you did good, girl.